Hey guys, we are making something I'm really excited about today, grapefruit cream-filled donuts. I've been thinking about making these for months, and now it's finally going to come to fruition. I'm starting with zesting 2 ruby red grapefruits, avoiding the white pith underneath because it's bitter. And what we're gearing up to make is a grapefruit curd, which can be used for a multitude of desserts, but today we're going to be using it as our filling. And the zest holds a lot of flavor, so try not to miss out on it. Then after that, we can move on to juicing. We need 1 cup of grapefruit juice for the curd, and plus a few tablespoons for the glaze that we're going to make later on. You could use store-bought grapefruit juice for this if you wanted to, that's totally fine. Strain out any leftover chunks of grapefruit. Now in a pot, we're adding 3/4 cups of sugar and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Whisk together to create plumes of powder. Separate 4 egg yolks into your bowl of zest. You can either separate the yolks by using the eggshell and passing it back and forth to release the whites, or you can do what I'm doing and just place the egg in a bowl and scoop out the egg yolk with your clean hands. Whisk until smooth and transfer into a larger bowl when you realize that yours is too small. Add your juice to your sugar and cornstarch, whisk until combined, then turn on your stove to a medium heat. When it starts to come up to a boil, slowly whisk in some of your thickened mixture to the yolks to temper them. We want to bring them up to temperature so we don't scramble the eggs. Add it back into the pot, whisking continuously for another minute or 2, then whisk in 6 tablespoons of cold butter and a pinch of salt. Once your curd is smooth, thick, and glossy, it's finished. This curd has a big, zingy citrus punch and a buttery texture. It's delicious on its own, but we're going to do more to it later. Put it in a container, press the plastic wrap onto the curd itself to prevent a skin forming, and chill it in the fridge. Moving on to our dough, we have 1 1/4 cups of warm whole milk, about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 2.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and optionally the scrapings of 1 vanilla bean. Stir and let rest for 5 to 10 minutes. In the bowl of a stand mixer, add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour using the scoop and swipe method. Break your measuring cup's handle and keep pushing forward. I want a little chew in my donuts, so 2 cups of bread flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, and a pinch of salt. Give the dry ingredients a little stir, then add your yeast mixture, 1 stick of slightly cooled melted butter, unsalted, and 2 beaten eggs. Let this knead for 7 to 8 minutes on a low to medium speed. Roll out onto your work surface with a touch of flour and knead into a smooth, supple dough ball. Admire the gorgeous flecks of vanilla bean. Oil a clean large bowl, put in the dough, cover in plastic wrap, and put this in the fridge for a minimum of 2 hours up to overnight. At least 2 hours later, we have a huge puffy mass of dough. Deflate it and roll it out into a rectangular shape. You can cut these into circles like traditional donuts, but squares or the long john shape means no scraps and handling your dough as little as possible. Retrospectively, I think I rolled out my dough slightly too thin, but we're going to keep going and cut out our donuts, place them on parchment paper, cover them, and let them rest for another hour or so at room temperature. While that rests, I have about a cup of heavy cream and 2 tablespoons of honey powder. You can use sugar like a normal person and whip it up until stiff peaks. We've got our curd skin-free, and we're going to fold this into our whipped cream. Fold, not stir, so we don't deflate the air that's in our whipped cream. This turns our tangy, buttery curd into a light, citrusy cream filling. Fill up a piping bag with the filling. If you don't have a piping bag, you could use a large Ziploc baggie. Push the filling into the corner of the bag, cut off the tip, and just twist the top. If you don't have a Ziploc bag, you could also later on, once your donuts have cooled, just slice them in half and spoon the filling in. Either way, just put the filling back in the fridge for later use. For our glaze, I have a cup of powdered sugar, a pinch of salt, and an optional scraping of 1 vanilla bean, and a few tablespoons of grapefruit juice. Measuring isn't totally necessary here, just know that you need a lot of powdered sugar and a very small amount of liquid. As we're approaching our donut endgame, we have a setup to make our assembly easier. I have our pot with 2 quarts of neutral flavored oil, a cooling rack on a baking sheet, our glaze, and a bowl of powdered sugar because I want some powdered donuts next to my glazed ones. Carefully lay in your donut. Add as many as you can fit without overcrowding the pot. These fry up quickly, so turn them frequently, and when they're golden brown and it sounds hollow when you tap the top of it, you know that your donut is finished cooking. My next mistake was having oil heated to 370 degrees. I was trying to account for the fact that your oil will drop in temperature when you add your donuts. I recommend 360 degrees Fahrenheit for your oil. When your donuts are warm, not hot, you can glaze or powder them. My next mistake was not letting these cool more before injecting our grapefruit cream filling. This will get messy if you do this too soon, and it can cause the texture inside your donut to be really compromised. So patience is the key here. Poke a few holes and inject your filling up until it just starts to peek outside of the donut. Fill these just before serving. Now finally, we have a fully assembled donut. Despite our mistakes today and getting really messy, the result is still a beautiful looking pastry, fluffy and filled with deliciousness. Now I haven't perfected this recipe, or at least my techniques, but I'll be damned if this doesn't taste great. Grapefruit is a really underutilized fruit in my opinion, so it really stands out when you do use it. These donuts are slightly chewy, soft, sweet, bright, creamy, citrusy, and I would happily buy these if I were in a donut shop. I love that the grapefruit gives it uniqueness, and I would highly recommend getting creative yourself. Donuts are a blank canvas for endless flavors and fillings. What kind of donut would you like to make?